All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You'll have to excuse me for the way that this is being recorded. The original plan was I did bring a separate camera. I'm recording this on a laptop right now. I did bring a separate external camera, like a webcam. And then I was recording this episode. I got about 10 minutes in, the juices were flowing, everything was going wonderful. And then it stopped recording. Uh, Maybe it also could just be because I'm recording on a laptop. It doesn't want to let me record for an hour. Um, maybe. You see what I'm saying? So, I decided to just chuck the webcam, see if this works. If it doesn't, this will never see the light of day, and I don't have to worry about it. I'll go back to the drawing board, try again, see what other options I can figure out. Maybe 10 minutes is all the laptop will let me record. And that would be unfortunate, considering I like to do a hour long type format, or at least closer to. Um, so I suppose I should just kind of. How are we doing, folks? Tonight I'm coming to you from an undisclosed location in an undisclosed area that you'll probably never be able to locate, so don't worry about it. Um, Again, I apologize for the method in which or I suppose medium, I'm trying to communicate this through. I know it's a little bit different than our usual background, our usual cave that we have uh, recorded our conversations and our contemplations together in. But like I alluded to in my last episode, if you dare to go through them, excuse me, I moved. I did. I moved out of my apartment. It was a solemn experience. Kind of weird. I kind of believe in the idea that. Uh, Also, I'm in a parking lot, so and to be honest, like my brain is kind of like fine tuned to quickly identify and kind of like file away like movement, I suppose. So I apologize about that if I'm looking all over the place. But uh, I kind of believe that you die a lot. Like there are certain like think of yourself as a person, and then if you have a child, there's kind of a death to the old you. Like you can never really be the old you because now you have a kid. There's kind of like that idea. It's much like from like childhood to, or let's more so call it innocence. Your innocence, and then eventually at some point, whether egregiously or not, your innocence is stripped away from you, and then you're living real life, right? That would probably be the death of the innocence of yourself, right? And then maybe you're a teenager or whatever, and you have like this idea of the world, and then you become an adult or whatever. But you just grow up, and then maybe that's a death to your old self, and then maybe you have a child, or maybe a loved one dies, or maybe or a parent dies, or a sibling dies, or someone dies, and you're not really the same person. Maybe that's a death to the old self. Well, regardless, uh, that kind of felt kind of partially what I was going through when I was finally turning in the keys and kind of like walking around like in like the sitcoms, or the dad is like looking around the house like so many good, whatever gay shit like that. But and excuse the sniffle, sorry, my immune system just went 12 rounds in a world championship heavyweight bout with whatever cold's going around. So, but we came out the other side. I drank a lot of high quality milk and orange juice. Got my body all the vitamin C and D it needs. Uh, Reality, that's just cope. Whatever virus enters your body, it's gonna be there for the amount of time that it's gonna be there. Right? It's gonna run its course and then it'll go away. I kind of feel like anything else is just kind of to suppress it, which you can suppress it all you want. It's gonna be there. Regardless, I got off on a bit of a tangent there. So yeah, the old me that lived in that apartment, or kind of like that section of my life, is probably dead now. It's probably gone. which was kind of sucked, but also was kind of freeing, liberating in a way as well, you know. Like, yeah, that part of me is dead, but you know what? I'm alive, so let's go live. Let's see what else we got, you know. This was so wonderful, and I'm having to say goodbye to this now. That obviously means, you know, because at some point I had to say hello to all of this greatness and goodness and wonderfulness that was in my life, right? And then, like everything, eventually I had to say goodbye. I'm not much of a mathematician, but in my life I keep saying hello and goodbye to things. That's how it works. So I'm kind of waiting. What am I going to say hello to next, right? That's what I'm plotting on. Regardless, we're living now. I moved back in with my grandmother. I moved into my childhood home. I realized that I didn't live with my grandmother growing up. I lived with my mom and my dad, and then my mom, and all sorts of other mixes and stuff in between. But regardless, but you know, I was kind of like a wayward child, I suppose you could say. We moved so much growing up. There was, you know, I didn't really ever have a childhood home. Or so I thought. I never really had a childhood home. I didn't really have a bedroom that was mine, or like a backyard that felt familiar to me. So I thought, right? And then now as I'm older and I've reflected a little, that's what my grandmother's house is to me, right? And then I suppose that begs the question, well, what is home, right? And I suppose that's also such a broad, subjective question. How can you really answer that? So I'll answer it for myself. Like, what do I think home is? That's a good question. I don't really know. But what if, like, home to me is it's like that. It's the place that when you're there, there's no like weird feeling on the back of your like neck that's like, should I like am I overstaying, or like should I be here, or is this my spot, or is this someone else's spot, you know? Because at the end of the day we're animals, so you know. But you know, it's a place that you can walk in and feed yourself if you need to. It's a place that, you know, you don't have to ask for things. It's a place that, you know, you feel comfortable. Um, you feel comfortable. You know, I think that's what home is, and I realize that's what my grandmother's home always was for me. You know, it's that place that, like, no matter where I am in the world, if I could just find a specific highway or like a specific road map to just get me somewhere, I can get there. You know, I can get home. And so at this end and also beginning of the terrible cycle that I was, or not terrible cycle, but kind of blunt end of my old life came to, I've now found myself 4 years later repeating a cycle, right? Listen, and by the way, I just celebrated my 22nd birthday. Happy birthday to me, February 27th, 2003. Look it up, 58th day of the year. Do you know what that means? It means I'm a world conqueror. I'll leave it at that. Um, but yeah, so I'm only 22. It's not like my life is over or anything like that. And I'm not just saying that like as cope. Like I'm 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 ready for whatever is to come. But I also know I'm kind of in like this uh how would you say, like, incubation period, like whatever it is that is going to come, because something's going to come, something will come, whatever it may be. Whatever it is, I'm preparing for that. So I have to be patient, unfortunately, and like I throw my fists up, like, what the fuck? Where's the bad bitches? Like, what the fuck? Like bad bitches was well, I suppose that's like a Freudian slip. That is true. That's something I struggle with. Like, I like to refer to this as the Hermits Conundrum. Whereas a 22-year-old man, as a 22-year-old creature, little goblin thing, where like part of me understands that there are certain desires I have and certain, I suppose you could even say, needs, certain things. Hold on, we're at 9:55. Let's see if it clicks off. I did shake my Holy shit, boys, we're live. Let's see if it keeps going. I'm also incrementally going to move my little mouse pad to maybe the computer tried to enter rest mode last time. Maybe I could still be using the webcam. Neither here nor there. It's unplugged and it's garbage as far as I'm concerned. Just kidding. It served me well. What was I talking about? Freudian slip, bad bitches. Like, I'm waiting for whatever purpose is going to come to me. I'm waiting for whatever my next ambition is that's going to call to me. Like, because, and I talked to my sister one time about this, where she was like, because she's my, I mean, I call her my baby sister. We're like Irish twins, really. But that's my baby, right? But I was talking to her, and we were kind of, I suppose, just kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. Like, are we procrastinating too much of our life away, or like, how could we be taking more advantage of like the moments we have, or like, are we spending too much time wasting our time on bullshit? Like, my sister and I were both, to be honest, if we're being pretty honest here, and you're not a narc or whatever, like we're both pretty avid pot smokers, so it's like, smoking weed is like one thing, right? Like, and I take the stance it's like the ultimate utilization tool, but also smoking weed is kind of a hobby, right? Like in the sense that like I like smoking and like watching a show or listening to a podcast, or I like smoking and studying chess theory, or like, but there are times where I wonder, like, the 4 hours that slips away from me doing that bullshit, like, could I have been better utilizing it elsewhere? And my sister kind of asked herself that same thing. But then I also kind of said, it's like, but how much more can I do, right? Like, I try to be honest with myself about some of my habits, or maybe vices, you could say them, or really just like kind of my systematic approach to life. Like, um, and it is true sometimes that there are times I could probably be utilizing my time better, um, and not be, sitting around bullshitting on my phone, or be smoking weed, well, or be smoking weed with no purpose of why I'm smoking it, or, um, like, what other kind of bullshit do I like? This is the problem with wasting time, is you can't even remember. Wait, well, it's all phone, right? It's all phone. I have 11 hours of screen time. What else can it be? It's nothing. It's Twitter. It's Twitter. It's scrolling through Twitter. It's going on YouTube and like, dude, I deleted TikTok off my phone. I'm so sick of these fucking communists. Why is every fucking website, app, fucking visual medium, why is it all shorts and shit like this now, dude? I want YouTube. I want long form fucking content. I want some dude locked in his basement on his computer for way too long, slaving over the keyboard, just passionately video documenting away about Michelangelo and why he painted the 16th or Sistine Chapel. Like, something. I'm so sick of the, like, sorry, but I suppose that was kind of like me. Why don't I listen to myself if I'm so sick of it? Why do I allow myself? Because it's fucking addicting. All right, they got to figure it out. But so there's all this time that I could, but realistically, actually, I just admitted I had 11 hours of screen. Well, also a lot of that screen time is just my phone playing with my AirPods in, like while I'm at work. Because if I'm working for 8 hours, my phone is probably awake and open for 8 hours, just because. But still, okay. Let's say the 8 hours I'm working is all screened. Okay, there's still 3 hours of the rest of the day. Let's say I have 8 hours, so 3 hours of the rest of my 8 hours. Now let's assume that's over the course of 365 days. Now we're looking at something like, 1,090, maybe 1,090 hours a year. I hope that was spot on. I'm kind of a genius. 1,090 hours a year. Like, how can I better utilize that time? But also, on the contrary, like, time is scary because it's like, we don't have any time, but at the same time, time is all we have, right? But on the contrary, at the same time, like, I'm moving out of my apartment. I'm working 40 hours a week. I still have to do my laundry. I have to take care of my cat. There's all these things that take up my time. Like, I suppose that's really it. Well, I suppose I'm poking holes in my own argument. But also, I'm just not being realistic about how much time I spend, like, doing things, like, in and out of my life. Like, at the same time, like, a lion naps, at the same time, human has leisure. I'm not really buying into this whole like grind 8 hours a day like culture. I'm not into it. I understand we're at the late stage capitalism and everything's fucked. I'm focused on developing skills. I'm focusing on my value as a human, as an asset. And then eventually all of the money that I could ever think of needing will come to me. Also, that could be cope for a poor, like, cuck wage slave that, works for 18 bucks an hour and will never escape credit card debt or, and will just be stuck working a job like this for the rest of his life. It could also be that. But we like to think that there will be opportunity for us, folks. That's what we like to do here in Jesters Privilege. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I even introduced myself. My name is James Patrick. I'm the host tonight on the Jesters Privilege show here, coming to you from Cedar Rapids, Ohio. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. From Cedar Hills, Oregon, from the beautiful parking lot next to another parking lot. It was like the only street light I could find. Admittedly, the lighting did look better on the Logitech webcam, like the separate external camera, but we take what we can. Excuse me. With that being said, sorry, folks. It's just not classic. Just be sucking on a nipple in front of the world. But damn, I love mama's milk, boy. I want a drink of this, but it's holding up my laptop. Anyways, folks, so yes, I moved in back home with my grandmother. Hey, it is what it is. Life chews you up and spits you out, folks. Life chews you up and spits you out. All you can do is move forward to the best of your ability. I suppose that's my message. I was thinking about that, like, as a human being, like, as humans, we all carry something with us that is, like, I suppose this is, like, kind of like an idea of, like, whether or not we actually encompass or have free will. Like, are you actually doing everything that you're doing because you want to do it, or was it, like, kind of predetermined for you that way, or are you actually making every choice and you have to live with the consequences, right? My take, personally, I'm not sure I've obtained enough wisdom to really, you know, give my 2 cents on the matter, but I will for what it's worth. Um, I think that in this life we opt in to whatever, like, consciousness is an anomaly, right? So whatever conscious experience we're having right now, I think that whatever our conscious being is, which is obviously greater than whatever flesh I'm inhabiting, whatever that conscious being is, and we know that matter can never cease to exist. If matter's here, it'll always be here. It'll just take the shape of something else. So, like, I think that when you opt into this experience, you opt into the overarching theme, and there are certain things that I think you have choices in this, but I suppose you don't really have choices. I mean, you have choices in the sense that, last night I made a choice to go to Jack in the Box and eat like a fat ass, right? But also, that's like one day of my life. Now let's look in the long-term scope of my life. Okay. Right now, at 22 years old, a couple days ago, I weighed in at 227 pounds, 227.30. Well, 0.30. If we want to be specific. Well, I suppose there's no zero, so I shouldn't say that because that's actually a lie. 227.3. Okay. When I was 17 years old, and the last time I weighed it on the scale, and I assumed I peaked over 400 pounds, but the last time the peak that I ever saw, truthfully, on the scale was around 380 pounds. Now, my friends and I did the math, so we calculated if I kept living that lifestyle for the amount of time I did without weighing myself before I started to take notice of it at my peak weight or whatever, then I probably would have weighed probably about like it came out to like 413, 415. Let's just say I was a big boy. All right, 400 pounds. I was a 400-pound 17-year-old. Now, last night I made the choice, just like technically I made the choice all throughout my childhood to eat like shit, eat like garbage, and be a fat fuck. But I also think that in some way or another, I had to be a fat child or whatever. Like, I opted into this experience, so I kind of knew I was going to be fat. So, though I was like making the choices to not be fat or whatever, or making the choices to eat like a fat ass or whatever, it wasn't necessarily my choice in the sense that was kind of like the choice was laid out before me, but I already knew they already knew what the choice was going to be. I don't know if that makes any sense. But excuse me. So that's what I think. I think that it's something closer to that. So even though I made the choice to eat like a fat ass last night, there has been like the last like if I was like 17, 18. So like probably like the last 3 years of my life where I've been more health conscious and been doing push-ups in parking lots trying to better myself or whatever kind of bullshit we're subscribing to these days. Just trying not to be a fat sack of shit and not die when I'm 50. Realistically, the choice eventually, like, I think that the overarching theme of my life, I was a fat fuck, and then eventually I'm no longer going to be a fat fuck. In there, I have all these little choices, but eventually, you see what I'm saying? Now, that kind of scared me, but I think it was actually me seeing my headset out the corner of my eye. By that same metric, I suppose I could just forever be fat, and that's that. And I'm okay with that too. That doesn't bother me either. But I kind of forget where I even went. Free will is hard. How do you even call it? Like, yeah, what am I even talking about? But regardless, folks, so that's my take on free will. I kind of think that we have choices, but they're really just like illusionary choices. Like, sure. But eventually the overarching theme has already been planned out for us. We're all pawns on the chessboard. There's been a sequence of moves arranged. Only the best of us can see it before it happens, right, folks? But anyways, I kind of forget what I was talking about. And that's okay. Sometimes I wonder if this show would be easier if I was talking to someone else, but I spend all of my time alone anyways. Why do I need someone else to do something like this? I think maybe just because I'm emulating the idea of what it should be, not what I want it to be, which is us sharing our purpose with the world, folks. So again, what is my purpose? I don't know. That is literally the question I ask myself every day. I suppose second to obviously the Freudian slip that was that on the previous recording? Do I have to admit to that? I suppose before the Freudian bad bitch slip or whatever. Like I'm constantly wondering, but also I then think it's like and then I put it in the perspective of like the losing weight thing. Like I didn't really even like choose to like start losing weight. I just kind of started doing it, right? Like just kind of by living life. So that's kind of much how I assume purpose will come about. Like whatever it is that I'm supposed to. And then I also wonder like, or do I know what my purpose is? I just don't know the message, right? Because like I spoke to this guy at this gas station. My sister and her two friends, and I suppose my two friends now. I don't want to sound exclusive to them or to my sister rather, but they are her friends. and I got invited onto their friend's trip. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Not to offend anyone. Um, Sweet, nice people. Um, and we were at the gas station late at night, picking up some drinks and whatnot before we retired to our El Casa. And, just kind of bullshit, small talking, and, how you doing tonight, man? And he's like, you know how it is, man. I'm like, living the dream. He goes, well, it's someone else's dream. And just kind of bullshit, small chat, you know, and you kind of give the giggle because it is funny, but you knew it was coming. Um, but I asked him, just out of curiosity, because I genuinely am just a pretty curious person. Um, Even when it comes to people I'll never see again, I just want to know. Um, just out of curiosity. But I asked him, I was like, "What is your dream?" You know, and he kind of just like solemnly said, like, "Oh, my dreams are long gone now. My dreams do not work anymore." You know. Or whatever. And so we kind of and he asked me what my dream is, and I go, I go to help as many people as possible. And he goes, well, that's pretty broad. I'll keep that in mind. And I go, and we kind of laughed, and I get out of line. I let the next person go, and then as he's checking out what was my friend, like the group I was with, so it wasn't a big deal. But as he's checking him out, he asked me, he goes like, no, seriously, like what is it? And I was like, no, seriously, uh, I want to help as many people as possible. I haven't figured out how to do it yet. So like those kind of admissions to myself, I know that in some way, like, um, and to finally bring the train back around to how we even got into the free will conversation to begin with. Um, I think much like the idea where like each person throughout this like experience that they have opted into, we all carry like that soul, like that higher consciousness that separates us from whatever this physical flesh is. Whatever that is comes down with some sort of purpose, with some sort of mission, with some sort of idea, some sort of essence about them. And it's all individual to the one that it comes with, right? Like we're all different, yet we're all the same. Quite the paradox, right? So this question of purpose, like I mean, I feel like I know what my purpose is. It's to help people, like, right? Like the like but how? How do I do it, right? How do I do it? How do I reach the lands that my feet haven't touched? Are my words and my ideas and my contemplations of the world enough? I don't know. Is this some sort of stepping stone to something else? Is this some sort of creative incubation period where maybe because that's really what it is, right? Like, what trade can you really offer to the world anymore? Because I'll be honest, it doesn't matter. Robots are coming; they're gonna automate it. You're just gonna have to manage the robots, and that's okay. That's okay. It's not like we're really doing much anyway. It's not like my job of checking people in and out of a hotel with all my little clicky things is really that important. I can still give them a valuable customer experience while the robot does it, or while the automated system does it. You know what I'm saying? There will still be a need for people, but obviously my purpose is something greater than that. What is it? How can I guess I don't know where I'm going. I suppose that's more so ranting into the void. The Hermit's Conundrum. See, this is something I think about a lot as a 22-year-old man with, as I was kind of mentioning before, with like needs and desires and stuff. At what point, because at some point, I want to focus on whatever purpose is, because I don't want to just go through life trying to uh, live by the affection granted to me by one else, but by something deeper and fulfilling. And maybe that's kind of like an elementary realization, but I mean, it's less so the realization that's daunting, but more so that, like, I can't. I was watching a video about something gay, something like Bitcoin investing or something. Uh, and the or no, no, no. I was watching or I was listening to a guy talking about it was a talk show host, and the question to the guy was like, well, how do you do this or whatever? Because this is what I think I'd like to do. Excuse me. And the talk show host, he says, well, this isn't something you should do when you're younger. This is something that you should wait and kind of gain experience and get into when you're a little bit older. If you're 15, 16, don't get into it and, excuse me, burn yourself out of an opportunity because you don't know what you're doing yet. Oh my God. Because you don't know what you're doing yet, wait till you're 21, 22, and then, give it. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm 22. I'm not some infantile creature that, I mean, I still do have my whole life ahead of me, considering that I'm never able to get back the life I've already lived, so all I really have is what's ahead of me. But, like, I mean, I have my whole life ahead of me, but at the same time, like, clock is ticking, you know. At a certain point, I won't have a lovely grandmother that will take me in, you know. She'll be gone, you know. That time will pass, and eventually, and to be honest with you, when I was going through my apartment situation, like, because I was like damn near evicted, and like trying to figure it out on my own, I didn't really think I had any family to call. And then finally, I like just called picked up my phone and like texted my grandma. I was like, "Hey, if you're not busy, can I ask you some questions?" Because my grandma for a long time worked, not for a long time, for really the majority of her professional career, worked in commercial real estate. So I wanted to ask her just some questions about like how I could manage the situation I was in. And I didn't even ask her for help. She just offered it to me. So that was another lesson that kind of I'm still processing. And I love you, grandmother. Thank you very much for everything you do. But she just offered the help. Like but that's what I'm saying. Like I won't all like. I mean, I say that, but also I do believe to a certain like I believe I'm divinely protected. Okay. Now that might sound self-centered or whatever, but I believe we're all divinely protected. But I can't take the stance for you. I'm my own being, so I have to take the stance that I'm divinely protected. Now that doesn't mean that you know bad things can't happen to me. But what I'm saying is I go through life with a sheet of armor on me that I know I'll be okay. I'm divinely protected by God. God's got me. Like whatever, like and if I get like if someone walks up to this window and shoots me in this parking lot, well, I was divinely protected. I'm dead now, but I lived my life divinely protected. God was always looking out for me in some way or another. And and maybe sometimes I wonder if things like this are like self-centered or selfish to talk about from like because the only perspective I have is mine, so I have to talk about mine. So it's like, of course, my grandmother as an individual did something wonderful and selfless for me, right? But at the same time, and this goes back to like the free will conversation or whatever, did my grandma really do that, or was she just a vessel for it? Like, and I know I go all over the place in these episodes. God forgive me, and more so, viewer, forgive me if you can even keep up with this. But this is also a conversation I have with my dad. My dad lives with a lot of survivor's guilt because pretty much all of his friends throughout his life, my dad has had immense, immense health complications. I'm talking, and I'm not exaggerating when I say things like this, like double-digit heart attacks. Like when I was growing up, he had something like 13, 14 major strokes. That's an exaggeration. major is not the right word. He had something like 3 or 4 major strokes, and now the amount of minor strokes that he has is it's like innumerable. You can't really even count them. They just happen all the time. He has seizures all the time. He's dependent on all these different pharmaceutical like prescription pills that keep him operating. And I think that the only reason that he's even dependent on him is because he started taking them in the first place. But that's a conversation for another day. But so he's defeated death, right, at the poker table. He has pushed his chips all in with a smirk and nothing in the river. And every time somehow he comes out. And I say to him, I say, Pops, like, and I know this won't help you, Pops. I know you're gonna, how can something I say to you ever help, you stop missing the people that you've left or that really you have to leave behind because they're dead and you have to move on, because you're still living. How can, so I'm not trying to be, you know, ignorant or insensitive when I say this to you, Pops, but there's a reason you're supposed to be here. I can't tell you what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's for anything spectacular. Maybe the reason that you are still alive and you have to be here is just as simple as your kids need you. And so for whatever reason, in the greater scheme of things, God won't kill you because you can't die yet. And you don't understand why. I don't understand why. I'm not a prophet. I can't see the future. But for whatever reason, of all these people, and hey, and also maybe, hey, if you want to live by the idea that it's as simple as for whatever reason, he just keeps kicking and everyone else was too weak and they died. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the case. But then when we talk about it more and more, it's like, well, this friend's kids are set up and, they have college and or they're out of college and they have kids now and they have their and these ones they have their own business and then they're making money and this one's in the military. You know what I'm saying? Like there's all these different and it's like it sounds like, and this is no discredit to you, Father, because it's also on your kids' hands where like they kind of have to move through life at their own pace. But it also kind of sounds like he did his job as a father, because really, as animals, as all the trees and the different bushes and as the animals in the woods, the bears and the porcupines and the squirrel, once you reproduce, once you repopulate, once you continue your species, really you can fuck off and die. You're no longer needed, right? So it sounds like, in the greater scheme of things, because we like to think of ourselves as like this finite lifetime, so everything that we're doing in this lifetime is the most important thing. But so in the greater schemes of things, it sounds like he kind of could die, and it wouldn't really matter. He kind of just fuck off and die, and everything will keep going as it's going, and that's okay. And hey, maybe that's a cynical perspective, or maybe that's an optimistic perspective. I suppose that is me personally. I think about this sometimes where it's like, and excuse me, the terrible story of like the 15-year-old overdose or the or like or like the baby that's born with terrible health complications and they have all these problems and then they make it to like 3 or 4 and then they die when they were supposed to live. Like there's all these stories. Well, what if on that greater timeline that I was speaking about where like that like all of my dad's friends higher consciousness, higher beings or whatever their physical self could fuck off and die because they did their job, right? By that same metric, I also feel like if whenever you opt into this experience with whatever essence or message or purpose that you're harboring, and if we don't really have free will or we don't we're just going to live on this timeline of events that are going to play out inevitably in some way or another and you're kind of moving through them, if that soul or higher essence was like, hey, I know you spent 9 months in the womb and you did great through those surgeries and all that, but you can't do it in this body. So, we're gonna fresh restart, we'll try again. Now, in this finite lifetime, that baby's dying fucking sucks, right? Like no one wants to see a baby die. I don't want to see a baby die, I'll admit it. Okay, glad we got that off the table. No one wants to see a baby die. No one wants to have a 15-year-old overdose. No one, but if that baby's life was going to be hell and there's all these complications and it could just kind of plop out and try again, or by that same metric, if like this like young drug addicted teenager and like on the let's say just for the sake of the conversation or whatever, even though I know it's an insane hypothesis or whatever, but for the sake of the conversation, this teenager in some way or another was supposed to go on to cure cancer, but instead they decided they liked yummy yummy Xanax. Okay, the higher being or the higher consciousness would be like, hey fucker, you were supposed to do something, this isn't working out. Some way or another through this matrix of events, we're getting fentanyl to your Xanax. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's a terrible reality in this finite lifetime, but in the greater scope of things, what is more merciful, to allow, another 80 years of what seems like infinite misery, of what, really probably was the conception of what hell what is that everyone was trying. That's too far-fetched. Or quick little restart and you try again, right? So I'm like, Dad, obviously there's a purpose why you're still here. I guess I kind of got lost on the rant again, and now I'm all over the place. But Dad, there's a reason you're still here. Oh, I was wondering if it was selfish to talk about this. So it's wonderful that my grandmother did this for me, but on this like life, kind of like the same way of like, Dad, there's a reason you're still here. There's no reason you're supposed to die. Like, and also with like the narcissistic, divinely protected idea. I said that like eventually in my life there won't be someone like my grandma that will like be a lifeline for me, right? But there won't be anyone like my grandma because eventually all of my relatives will die. But somewhere or another through life you pick up new family, right? So eventually, like if I were to ever go through a hard time again, I wouldn't worry because I'll be okay. I was okay this time. Like there was an opportunity that presented itself. This time it is my grandmother letting me, you know, crash at her casa for however long I need and to get back on my feet or whatever. Maybe next time it will be in the body of a random stranger that has the perfect sized tire I needed while I'm stuck on the highway because my tire blew and my spare doesn't have a rim in it. You know what I'm saying? Like these. Maybe that's my purpose on this long, winding loop that we got back to. Maybe that's my purpose. I love those moments of just being the vessel of good in someone's life, like, or just in the world, in my community. And I suppose that doesn't have to be my purpose in life. Like my purpose could be bookkeeping or something, but maybe somewhere, or maybe like I was walking into the shop, like into the the grocery store, and I was walking past the cart return, and I always think like how that's like the or like that. What is it like the shopping cart? Shopping cart. There's a word for it for like a moral test or whatever. And I was thinking about how like because as I was walking past the cart return, there was one cart that was in the middle of like four different parking spots and right next to the cart return station, and then there was two that were on the wrong side of it instead of just going on the wrong side. So by the end of it, I had rearranged and replaced three shopping carts properly. And then so part of me was thinking to myself, like, oh, like, what am I? Some, like, look at me, some fucking asshole. I think I'm better than everyone because I'm putting these fucking shopping carts back. But then also part of me was just like, it takes 2 seconds of my day. I'm literally walking past it. I already recognize it as an annoyance in my mind. And I could just fix it. I could just fix it. And maybe that's not some groundbreaking technological advancement or philosophical, discovery or anything. But What if we took that small approach in everything? What if, like, what, you know what? I've decided my purpose. I've decided my message. We're spreading this message. Put the fucking shopping cart back, you piece of shit. It takes 2 fucking seconds. You're walking right past it. But no, seriously. If we all, in some way or another, and I try to do this like, oh, was that in? Fuck. The problem when the recording stops, especially after, because now I've recorded for 45 minutes. In the previous recording, it was 10 minutes. So I have 55 minutes of total thoughts spew, and I don't know if I told the other 10 minutes in this one. I met a nice lady. She's fresh out of prison. She tipped me $20 today because I guess I went above and beyond doing my job. I work at a hotel. I don't know if I mentioned that. I tried not to accept the tip because I mean, but also I mean I suppose like in some way or another I mean to be honest I kind of need that $20. So in my mind like she was a vessel to me. Like maybe in some way her and the people she was with really needed kindness at that moment, and so they valued that at $20. And it just so happens that that $20 actually does make a big difference in my day-to-day life as of the moment. Well, that's actually not true. That is true. I say it doesn't, but I have a lot of bills to pay. So even though it doesn't make a difference in my life at this very second, I'm saving it and pocketing it away. So it does make a big difference to me. But so even though I didn't try to accept it, I'm glad it came to me. Blah blah blah. But the point I was trying to say, and the reason I never like openly accept tips. People literally just have to drop them and leave them with me, pretty much, is because like the satisfaction of knowing that I helped out or that I did something that helped you out, or like the thing that I went above and beyond for them was I let them use our breakfast area. That way they could, which now I realize probably was to celebrate her getting out of prison, was to eat cake and pizza together as a big collective clan. Now, technically, we're supposed to charge them for using a communal space like that. I'm not what the fuck do I look like? Go use the fucking breakfast room at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's closed. You know what I'm saying? I'll take it. Just get everything in the trash so I can take it out. The satisfaction of knowing that I was able to, in some way or another, facilitate that much joy, the joy being the inevitable joy that comes with a communal gathering like that. That was enough for me. The fact that I was able to, in some way, allow you guys to do that, and kind of, that's enough for me. The fact that I was able, like, of course, like in my mind, I was talking about like, oh, look at me, I'm an asshole. I think I'm better than everyone because I'm putting back 3 shopping carts, and I'm not. I'm going to the store for 2 things. I'm not even going to use a shopping cart. So really, I'm doing the job of 3 people. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course, there's all those thoughts, but also at the end of the day, I go to this grocery store all the time. I smile and make small talk with all the people that work there. So in some way or another, I'm engaged in their lives, and they're engaged in mine. And it's not like those shopping carts are going to put themselves back. It's not. Someone has to do it. And of course, someone does get paid to go out there and round up all the shopping carts and blah, blah, blah. So maybe, I could just walk past it and be like, well, thank God someone gets paid to do that. Fucking pieces of shit didn't put back the shopping carts. But I'm walking past it. I can do it. I can have a direct effect on the spaces I'm engaged in. I don't have to wait for someone else to do it. Matter of fact, while I'm putting back the shopping carts or whatever, I can also make the dude's life. Of course, he gets paid to do it, but I can make his life a little bit easier because he doesn't have to walk around all the different like fucking spots that are in the miscellaneous spots in the parking lot where people have just scattered these carts around. He can just grab them from the little station with his perfect automated trolley and then bring them back into the store, right? Now, of course, at every grocery store I go to, I'm not going to put back 3 shopping carts. Of course, there's probably a bias because that's my local grocery store that I am constantly going into, right? Of course, I'm not going to always be able to, at my job, allow people to do, or if I do allow them to do it, it's not always going to go so well. I'm not always going to be rewarded in some monetary way, or even be thanked generously, just verbally, and just with the nice affirmations that family offered me. Like, I'm not always going to get that. And that's okay, but that doesn't need to stop me from, and I'm not perfect. Hey, I've partaken in some evil, folks. I have partaken in some evil. Did I partake in it, or was I forced to by the overarching theme of the life I opted into? That's a conversation for another day. Because at some point I wonder, am I removing responsibility from myself by taking that perspective, or garnering ultimate responsibility? Because ultimately, even though I didn't choose to do that, I opted in, so I did choose. That's still, so hey, I guess we do have free will, because at the beginning of it we chose to do this, right? Even though my monkey brothers and sisters, even though we don't have free will, I think that we have free will in some greater scheme of things. But that's harder to conceptualize. It's not, that's more kind of like hippy dippy. Probably would get you locked up for thinking or talking like that. Locked up in some sort of psychiatric facility if you were speaking manners like that, I suppose, around. No, that's not true. People say wonky shit nowadays. I suppose they always have, though, right? Jeez, folks, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? How much more can we do, folks? How much more can we do? How much can we do? I'm like a figure eight. Excuse me, if you can get around the bends, I promise you'll see your friends in the middle. Excuse me, friends being the thoughts and ideas you heard earlier in the episode. How much more can we do? How much more can I do? There's always more you can do, right? There's always more you can do, but kind of, and then I don't know if I ever finished that thought. Much like the losing weight, where like I never really even kind of chose to do it; it just kind of naturally happened. Whatever's gonna happen is gonna come to me. All I can do is continue to incubate, and I kind of hate that. It's kind of cringy to say, but just try to be the best version of myself, you know. But no, really, like every day. Because eventually I'm gonna hit a physical peak, right? Eventually, life is a pendulum. You start as an infant, and then by the end of your life, there are people wiping your ass again. That's the way life goes. So eventually, I will peak. Eventually, we will all peak, my friends. So up until that point, I just have to keep trying to reach my peak, and then eventually, at my peak, I'll try to maintain the peak I had while inevitably declining, with the illusion that I plateaued. And that, my friends, is old age. Or have I always been? Anyways, I suppose maybe at this point of the episode, it's more of like the ramblings. I wonder what else I can offer you folks tonight. It's really more of just me screaming into the void again. How are we doing tonight, folks? It's really just more of me screaming into the void again, trying to figure out what to do with my life, with myself. Um, I suppose someone else already figured it out for me. Excuse me. I'm very happy you were here to join me. The hiatus is over, folks. We are back. Um, this is something I would like to do consistently. Oh, that's light. I guess I say that often, and I don't ever do it. Um, but again, how much more can we do? Now that I'm more settled into my place and of things, I hope to uh, continue to reach back out regularly to you folks. I hope to continue this conversation that we have going. Um, I suppose that, and ultimately, I'll probably try to end on this thought, but ultimately, this is the uh, conundrum, if you will, that I'm facing these days. Is like I just, and part of the reason why I'm in the middle of a 9-day work week, because I'm a shift worker, so obviously not that's how that works. But it's because I'm manipulating my schedule back to having Friday and Saturday, or actually now it's Thursday and Friday off, which I'm cool with that. I just wanted Friday or Saturday off, just so I have the opportunity, um, without making an excuse for myself. I'm gonna turn my car on to make sure it doesn't die. The opportunity without making an excuse like, oh, I have work, because admittedly I do make that excuse if I don't want to do something, like, oh, I have work, or oh, I have to get work. Get to so open up days that primarily I'm assuming for my age bracket would or should be reserved for social like gatherings, right? So Thursday and Friday. Um, so how do I utilize those times more to, uh, because this is the problem I find for myself. Part of me really enjoys working. Well, no, that's not true. I enjoy working. Not a part of me. I do enjoy working. Part of me, part of me isn't right. My whole heart's in this statement. I do like working. Like, as a man, you kind of, like, we call it work today, but really, like, men just need to be doing something, right? Like, we call it work today. For a long time, it was like surviving, but we'll call it work for today, right? Because surviving is so easy these days. So I like working. I wish that what I was doing during those 8 hours I call work was something more fulfilling, even though I do find fulfillment from what I'm doing. Obviously, we all want like the dream job or whatever. But so I wish it were more fulfilling. But what I also find troublesome for myself is that on my days off, when I don't have a job, when I'm not working, when I have to find something to do to fill those 8 hours, like all the things that I find to do in some way or another hurt myself, or like hurt my, uh whether that be my, like, I mean, like, I'm not like self-harming myself or anything like that. Like, I'm not trying to allude to, like, but like, I mean, or you know what I'm saying? Like, there could be more productive things I'm doing, but without like a set schedule of like, okay, I know I'm going to my job and I'm gonna go clock in, and I know what to do at my job to maintain the everyday efficiency of my job. Like, what do I do in my day-to-day life? Like, what can I work on for myself for 8 hours on the days that I have off? And maybe if I'm working on something for myself in those 8 hours, that'll bleed into like the 3 hours of screen time, the 1,090 hours of screen time every year. You know what I'm saying? And then maybe eventually that can all bleed into the 8 hours a day that I'm doing during my work week, and then my days off can actually be for genuine rest and leisure. Because the problem I'm finding in myself, and God bless myself for having youth, and or rather being youthful, so I have kind of just like this uh, unlimited pool of energy to pull from, which I know will run out eventually one day. But for the now time being, I still have it. Could I pull all of that towards something? I don't know. Maybe I'm losing the thread here, folks, but maybe the idea will resonate with someone there. I want to find, like, so I enjoy working to that degree. Because also, like, your days off, like, I mean, but also, like as humans, you also, like, I want to just be involved in community. I want to just be, I want to just sit around and smoke more than we should, and just talk about bullshit, and just connect with my brothers and my sisters. Not just like my baby sister I'm talking about, or my older brother, but just like my brothers and sisters that inhabit. I mean, maybe that's kind of like dopey to say, but that's really how I see it. Like I mean, see, I always do that. I kind of like shut myself down. It's kind of like a little faggot thing I do. I kind of fucking hate it about myself. If you're a man, you should think exactly how you think. All my brothers and sisters, like I just want to. That's also true. So this is kind of the ultimate conundrum I face with myself as kind of like an introverted, um, purpose-driven person. Because truthfully, also to give myself some leeway here, I am kind of in a state of limbo. Um, I was a professional athlete as a child, believe it or not, a professional e-athlete. Seriously, no, but no, seriously, Call of Duty was like the first thing that I devoted myself to that taught me that I wasn't a loser and that all I needed was something that intrigued me and I could literally rise to the 0.01% of worldwide anybody. I can make enough money playing tournaments and challenge matches, wager matches for money. I can make enough money to, put gas in my car, and this was during high school and stuff. And I can make any amount of pocket money I needed for anything I needed to do. I wanted shoes, I could buy shoes. My fucking mom was behind on the internet bill. I could pay the internet bill, no problem. You know what I'm saying? I could get new internet installed. That way I could reinvest in my business in theory, reinvest in like my ability to compete by having a better internet connection. I was able to pay for the installation fees for like that. I was able to upgrade. So so then as so that was from my whole life. That was my whole life from 14 to probably 19. Like right before I turned 19 when I got kicked out of my mom's house. Like I thought I was going to like, and I suppose maybe this is just like the fever dream, but I feel like I could have like turned competitive COD and streaming, or at least that avenue that I was in some way or another, I could have turned that into, you know, whatever I wanted had I been allowed the opportunity, but I don't think that was the road I was supposed to go down. You see what I'm saying? So I'm in this limbo phase of what is my purpose? Where can I refine the purpose? Is it something competitive in nature? Is it something? One of my favorite things about Call of Duty was really, truthfully, the expression of it, the camaraderie of it. It wasn't even so much the competition of it, though it was very competitive in nature, and I am a competitive person in nature. But maybe the hermit is being close-minded. Maybe the hermit can have all of the above. Isn't that what this is all about? You know? Why can't I have my cake and eat it too? I can. We can. Folks, we can. And it all starts with you assholes putting your shopping carts back in the fucking section where they're supposed to go. They're these giant steel contain. Okay, I'm done with that. But seriously, we can all have our cake and eat it too. I think that we can all, in some way or another, find bountiful resources within ourselves, for one another. Um, if we all just listen to the big red oaf on the screen, just listen to me, listen to my message, listen to everything I have to say, because it's probably better than anything you've ever heard. But on a more serious note, folks, this was a blast. Let me know if maybe I should have done this the whole time. Maybe I'll try to do it in the daytime. The problem is I get off work at 11 p.m. Uh, and I'm the type of person where, like, especially in the morning time, right when I wake up, I don't want to do anything. Marcus Aurelius said, "Of course, I want to lay underneath these bed, but or underneath these warm covers, but I that all I was born to do? It's my duty. He pretty much said stop being a pussy and get out of bed. So that's what. Maybe I should start to do that. Maybe I'll record it before I start my day. Maybe the more connected to dreamland I am, the more creative this will be. Speaking of dreams, now that I'm easing into an environment where my subconscious feels collected, I think is a good way to put it. I am starting to dream again. The dream journal is on its way back out. The other night I was cuddling with, I think, a dude. But the dude had a fat ass. I am heterosexual. These nocturnally admissions, it's a very natural thing. On that note, folks, this was another episode of Jester's Privilege. Sorry I don't have some amazing philosophical, life-altering quote to leave you with this time. I'll just leave you with some dude's ass in your mind. At least it can be a supple ass for you if you care to envision it. I think I keep dragging this out because I'm actually having a hard time saying goodbye to you guys. I do this with real people where I'll just keep making fun of them and making them laugh to some degree so that way they can't say goodbye to me. But I'm gonna say goodbye here. I gotta go to bed and get up for work tomorrow. You know, how much more can we do, folks? The truth is we can't do too much more, but I think we can give a little bit more effort. And I think you can too. And not only that, I think it benefits you more than you realize. Reach out to someone you love. Let them know you love them. Okay. I was, yeah. Like some world-renowned message will come out of the mouth of some fucking 22-year-old moron, right? 22 going on 70, folks. Have a good night. I hope this worked. If not, this was an hour and 7 minutes into the void. Alright, goodbye. Or if I can fucking end it.